You get your coffee, Jay?
I got my tea, man.
Good morning. Good morning, boys.
Hey,
How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, as you know, I've been doing this thing in my kitchen for the last while, and Jerome, I did have you on before, and they've kind of been mostly, light, people's lives, inspiring people, and that was one of the reasons I had you on, Jerome. Kind of very positive, inspiring people, because I felt the world was quite overwhelmed by COVID, and I wanted to just get people's voices out there that I felt were inspiring, positive, warm, and with wisdom. So anybody that I interviewed kind of had that criteria. But this is a totally different setup this morning, because it seems that COVID is such old news nearly already, and with all that's happened in the last few days in America, and this particular session of my chats is totally different. It's a much heavier tone, I think, much more serious, the world has changed. In fact, the world has changed since the last time we spoke, Jerome, which is hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it had changed with COVID, and suddenly COVID has become a very small thing. I'm not sure that it is a very small thing, but we've let it become a small thing, and George Floyd's murder has taken over. So this is not about me, and it's not about my voice at all. In fact, the last few days when I've been reading stuff as a white person, the messages coming through like, shut up and listen to black people. Stop asking stupid questions and trying to fix things. Just listen to what black people are saying. And I think white people probably haven't a clue, really, how serious it was. Yesterday on the Ryan Tubridy show yesterday morning, I think she was a black girl from Donecarney was on in Dublin, and she told the most horrendous story. I think she had the nation crying, and about racism and living from Donecarney. And so I spoke to you two guys last week, and it's transpired that we all felt it was a good idea for you to talk about it, because it's terrible to even be saying the words white and black, because I don't see you as any different to me. I've only ever had, I live in a white privileged bubble, I suppose. Us white people maybe do. But it's desperate to think that people like you, who are some of the most inspirational people that I know, are now telling stories of shocking racism in our own country, as well as in your own America, where you both Ed, you came from America as well, I think. So I don't know your history, actually, your background, actually. So I'm going to just ask the two of you briefly to tell your childhood stories, where you came from, how you ended up living in Dublin, and then we will come on to the much more serious stuff. So just to give us a background, Ed, do you want to go first there?
Yeah.
Will I go first, Jerome?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was on before. I think some of Debbie's viewers have at least an idea of who I am.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my name is Edward C. Randolph. C stands for Calvin. I am originally from Tallahassee, Florida. Large, family. Unfortunately, we've lost two of our siblings, my oldest brother and a sister, very sort of young. My sister would have passed away of pancreatic cancer. My other brother, heart attack. My sister was 44. My brother would have been 46. And we were working class in every sense of the word. Through high school, older brothers and sisters played a lot of sports. I've gone through segregation in Florida, being bused from sort of a black school into a white school into the suburbs. And some kids would have been bused opposite from the suburbs into maybe an inner city schools. So went through high school, college, and in college went to Rogers University, studied in urban environmental planning, After that, I subsequently moved to Ireland, or came to Ireland to play basketball. I played in Belfast, and at the time, I think 1982, 83 would have caught sort of the end of the troubles in Northern Ireland. As a matter of fact, I've done one or two little small pieces, articles and one or two doc stories about my times in Belfast, and difficult times for both sides, whether you're a Catholic or Protestant and all like that. And after that, I moved to England, played basketball in Liverpool, came back, and I went to the west of Ireland where I met my wife, and we moved to Dublin. And after that, married two boys, Darren and Neil. Very proud of the two boys. Neil has actually been back with us over the COVID-19. He's in a graduate program, Bank of Ireland, and doing his accountancy. The other guy, Darren, is a professional football player. We had a tough decision, like some parents, to let him go to England at the age of 15. And it was a difficult time because at the time, my wife at the time just diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we let him go. And at this stage, we took a good decision for him because he, went through the academy at Charlton Athletic, moved around, eventually went to Motherwell after at Charlton, and then now he's back in West Ham after playing for Birmingham City and things like that, different clubs. He's back in West Ham, and very proud of him. He's played for Republic of Ireland at under 16, 17, 18, 19, and now he's considered the Irish #1 goalkeeper. So that's more or less me in a nutshell. I'm a teacher. My profession here, teacher and coach, PE teacher. I'm sort of employed by two or three different schools, and I'm self-employed because I coach primary school all the way up to secondary school. And that's more or less Ed Randolph from Tallahassee, Florida, in a nutshell.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Ed Randolph. I thought you were going to say from Tala when you started off there instead of Tallahassee. I was saying, God, I didn't realize you were from Tala.
They won't let him in Tala.
So Jerome, you give us a brief on you. I mean, obviously, some people know you that know me, but just give us a brief on your background.
Well, Debbie, I have a very similar story to Ed, except that I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And, but like Ed, came here originally to play basketball. And after playing basketball, moved into the profession of teaching. I, like Ed, got my degree in the States. I've been teaching at Port Community School for the last 20 years. And I'll hopefully won't have to do too much more of that after the next couple of years. 5 kids. All grown, all married, and very much involved now with me thinking about what they're facing in regards to what we're going to be talking about here. So I came over in 1981. I'm not going anywhere. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, and I can say, are you nearly afraid to say things anymore? You both married white women? Gorgeous
Yes.
white women.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so can I just ask you, I'm going to ask you loads, because I have loads of questions myself that there's things I just don't know about. So before you came to Ireland, you obviously experienced racism in America before you actually stepped foot in Ireland. And then when you came to Ireland, did you think you might see the end of that? Ed.
Looking back now, Debbie, I probably didn't give it much thought. I gave it some thought. When I first came to Belfast, believe it or not, one of my brothers, Curtis, he lives in Atlanta, he actually asked me, he said, listen, when the guys were talking about coming to Ireland to play basketball, were they talking about Belfast or the Northern Ireland, or were they talking about the Republic of Ireland? And I was like, I don't know. So then I had to bring back one of the guys, a guy by the name of Fergie Woods, and he said, it's Northern Ireland. So I said, okay. And when they were like asking to come over to play basketball, they were saying like, look, there's not many black people in Belfast, and how are you with that? And I've always said it, and it stems back. Oops, sorry. It stems back to me and my child. I had black and white friends, and I think based on my past, people are people, and you treat them the same way that you'd want them to treat you. So I didn't expect racism, but it's out there. And sometimes it can sneak up on you just when you let your guard down and you're feeling good and everything else. And out of nowhere, you just go, boom, hit you. And the stories, there's so many stories. And I think that's why you look at the present situation with George Floyd and basically his character, okay? None of us are perfect. And George Floyd was not perfect, okay? I think it's come out now in the media about his criminal record. Mm-hmm. But did he deserve to die the way he did? Mm-hmm. Not only George Floyd, but there are countless other cases, mm-hmm. especially the last, say, three months leading up to it. Breonna, Ahmaud Arbery, and then Brunswick. So, yeah.
Well, when we had this conversation the other day, I know they came out with some people came out with all sorts of negative stuff about him, all right, but I don't see it that way at all, because I don't, as you say, I don't think it matters at all about that in this situation, simply because if he had a different past and if he had a different life, then he wouldn't have been doing what he was doing anyway. He wasn't, exactly. If he was born in Clontarf, or if he was born in Dalkey, and he went to a private school and he had the same chances, or not even a private school, a national school in Donamead, never mind Dalkey, I think he wouldn't have been the person that he turned out to be. So he didn't have the same chances in life. So there's absolutely no point in saying he did this, and this. I just have no interest in listening to that kind of stuff at all. I have no interest. And I did see some tweets last week on Twitter from different people, as you can imagine, and everybody has opinions on this. Mm-hmm. But I think, so Jerome, when you were a child growing up, you had a difficult childhood from what I remember, just parts of it, and then you ended up obviously with a beautiful foster mom.
That's right. Yeah. As I told you in the past, I was raised in Chicago till I was 13, and then moved out of the city about 50 miles south of Chicago into a rural community. And what's interesting about that in relation to your question in regard to facing racism, and I was just talking to my dear, wonderful, lovely wife, Lois, about this, and that when, growing up in Chicago, I grew up in an all Black community. And for the most part, all I encountered on the south side of Chicago were Black people, and for the most part was too young to realize that the people who worked in those stores didn't own them. So the majority of the people who worked in those stores were Black. So, my introduction to racism and prejudice happened when I left Chicago.
Okay.
Yes. I didn't know what an Uncle Tom was until I moved into a rural community. I didn't, I've told the story many times about being in
that's okay, Jay.
The fridge. Oh no. And if it keeps beeping, I don't know how to stop it. Oh my goodness.
There we go.
But Ed, you start talking again. I'll come back to that story.
Okay.
Ed, what age were you at when you came to Ireland?
21, 22 out of college, graduated from Roger Williams University there in Rhode Island around 1982.
Okay, and can I ask you, when you were growing up, were you terrified of the police? Were you afraid? would you go out at nighttime? Were you driving your car? If they pulled you over, was your heart pumping? Were you afraid of the police?
There would have been a little bit of caution about that. For some of your listeners who happen to be white and have not have to deal with this or go through these situations, it's like going into a supermarket and making sure you ask for a receipt, because you could be accused of stealing. And don't get me wrong, as small boys, small kids going into the supermarket, you wouldn't have known if one of the other guys would have picked up a candy bar, not until you got outside the shop, you know? So little things that you were made aware of. I wouldn't have been afraid of the police, but you just would be aware of them, a little bit weary of them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You fixed that fridge wrong.
I did. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
But,
Don't worry.
yeah,
Tell me, so go on, Jerome. You were in the middle of there. When you left Chicago.
When I can always remember the story arriving down in this rural community, and we were being registered into the primary school that we're in, and I can remember the bell rang, and the students were passing through the halls to class. And I turned around to my sister, we were sitting there, and I said, oh my God, I said, look at all these white folks. And because again, we had grown up in this this all Black community and all. So, and without going into details, that first year and a half in that school system was a real challenging time for me. I know by the end of that year and a half of just primary school, I had an incident with one of the hall monitors. And by the time they grabbed me in regard to this incident, I'm just trying to catch a bus to go home. And they had taken me to the supervising teacher who was there, and they said to the supervising teacher, said, what happened? They told him what happened. And he said, what's your name? I said, Jerome Westbrook. He said, oh, so you're Jerome Westbrook. I'd had that many incidents, and they just weren't with whites. They were with Blacks as well in regards to this whole area of racism. I mean, Blacks were calling me Uncle Tom's. The first young man that really befriended me was a white guy, and he then ended up with an incident where he was called an in-lover. So I had to go see the young man that called him an in-lover, because if you called him an in-lover, you called me an in, and that sent me off. So of course, that became one of the incidents. Back hopefully Ed doesn't know, but when we were coming up in grade school, hazing was allowed.
Yeah.
What was?
Hazing.
So teachers were allowed to use a wooden paddle on your butt.
Okay.
As a form of discipline.
Well, to be honest, Jerome, that was in Ireland. At the Catholic schools weren't much different.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You were in your 60s, so
it was worldwide, like racism is. So yeah, so the hazing was worldwide, and during that first year and a half in the new school system, the wood hit my butt a lot.
Okay, and
yeah.
Okay, and was it because? Do you think it was because of the color of your skin, or was it because your teachers?
It was because of the incidents I was having in regards to these racist situations that I faced. Like I said, it wasn't just with whites; it was with Blacks as well, because the Blacks were wondering, "What are you doing hanging out with that white guy?"
Okay.
This white guy who had befriended me.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, these Blacks were in my face, and I'm having fights with them as well. But like I said, but in regards to, like I said, I only faced or became familiar, aware of racism when I moved out of Chicago. And like Ed was saying too, growing up with the police there, you were aware of the police. It wasn't the fear that people have now in regard to police. I mean, I saw the police a lot because they were picking me up for curfew and bringing me home, you know. But for the most part, they were definitely. I would have grew up seeing them more in a role of protect and serve back then than what we're seeing now.
Okay, so at the moment then, the police are, it would appear to us, the police are complete from the top down out of control. And nearly, would I be right in saying, since has this, I mean, there was deaths when Barack was there. It hasn't just happened since Trump came in. I mean, we can blame him a lot because of who he is and the fact that he has divided America. But there was, this problem is not Trump's problem. This is going on long. It was there when Obama was there and Clinton and everybody else. It's going back obviously centuries. And so the police at the moment, have they got a green light because they know that the man at the top has divided America? Do you feel that they have more of a green light? Or like why now? Why has it just, like there's been deaths before, as you say, you've listed all the people there that you all know, you know, Aubrey and all of these that we've been hearing their names. And there was a bit of a flurry and then it was passed over. This is the tipping point, I think, because I don't believe there's so many people out marching all over the world. I just don't see that it's going to change. But so what has to happen is the president of America has to make new laws. Is that what has to happen? What has to happen to stop this? Or what is, okay, so what has to happen? How do we go forward now?
Okay, that's it. President Obama said the other day in a town hall that it's going to be a long, long road. And for some people of color around the world, Debbie, it's been a long, long road. And for those, once again, who happen to be white, it's going to be hard to reach some people because some people we're desensitized with a lot of crime that's going on. We're desensitized to, say in Ireland, the traveling community. You don't want a traveling community to be built or a halting site to be built near me. So we really have got to get people to care more. Obviously, education, because some of it is ignorance and being educated or non-educated. But with the police department in America, at least, the unions are very, very strong. Some of the police, some of the listeners, they have contracts. So it makes it very, very hard to fire them, to discipline them. Police officers have committed violations, as in the case of the officer Chauvin, Derek Chauvin.
He had 17. 17
or 18. And ironically, the other police officer, Tao, was actually, I think, the previous month of January, whatever it was, February, he was up for Police Officer of the Month. But yet and still, he stood there and didn't try to help another person in distress. That's not a good police officer. I have friends in America who were, I have a cousin who was a Leon County sheriff. I have another cousin who was a police officer in the city of Tallahassee Police Department. You know, my son has a friend who went to college with him, university, who is a state trooper now in Virginia.
But Ed, is there some areas where the cops are out of control, or is it everywhere, or is it only pockets of it? Like, well, what is it? Like, these cops have bosses. They have whoever, sergeants or whatever you call them in America. Like, is there any? Do they have to? Is there any? Where's their training? Are they trained? Are they allowed to do any like this? Putting their knee on somebody's neck. Now we've seen many photographs since of soldiers doing it, say in Palestine with Palestinians and all that kind of stuff as well. Is there training? Is it how are they allowed to get away with treating people like this? Where's the training?
Can I intervene here real quick, Ed?
Yep.
Debbie, and I'll try to answer that question there, but just to point out what you were asking about earlier, that the whole, everything has happened long before President Trump, President Obama, because everything that we're dealing with is structural and generational. It's a generational problem. And in regards to the whole policing situation, one of the organizations that has been established over a number of years, and the campaign has really has been heightened because of what's happened, is the 8 Can't Wait campaign. And the 8 Can't Wait is the 8 policies that we're looking for all police departments to eliminate. And just to give you an idea what some of those policies are, because they are nationwide. And this organization, 8 Can't Wait, they seconded the police policies of the police departments of 100 major cities in the US. And what they're looking to eliminate are things like banning chokeholds and strangleholds, requiring de-escalation, requiring warning before shooting, requiring, they must exhaust all alternatives before shooting. Other officers will have the right to a duty, as a matter of fact, must have a duty to intervene, which we didn't see in Minneapolis. Ban shooting at moving vehicles, requiring the use of force continuum, and requiring comprehensive reporting. These are the 8 Can't Wait policies that must be implemented and because of what has happened already, there has been a large number of police departments in America that have taken on board this. So, as you said, these are the things that have been the problems, and these are the things that must be removed in order to address the problem in regards to the policing.
Yes, but Jerome, even with that, the racism is so entrenched that when you see a white policeman, and he's a big fat policeman, and he's sitting on top of, say, a 12-year-old girl, as we saw recently on the news, some little girl I don't know what she was doing. I have no idea what she was doing before. He had her on the ground and he was punching her. So whether the 8 Can't Wait, I'd still say that guy, if there's nobody looking, is going to be dropping those punches. The racism is so entrenched. It's like they hate these people. He doesn't know that 12-year-old girl. He's no idea. I mean, we saw another girl the other day. She was some university student, and I think she was cycling on the wrong side of the road. And before you knew somebody filmed the whole thing. Before you knew where you were, some guy had slammed her on the ground, cuffed her. She was a university student, about 21. She was black, brown, and she was a gorgeous girl. She was very articulate. She was calmly saying to him, "Calm down, but she was cycling on the wrong side of the road, I think. And she ended up slammed into the ground like a sack of potatoes, a violent force. So this is going to take, Obama's right when he says it's going to take such a long time, because that generation of people have a deep hate of black people and maybe brown people and maybe Mexicans. I don't know where it starts and ends. We're so privileged. I just said to Ed earlier this morning, I've never had an incident in my life that I ever felt really